Alps, and inside the Geltenhut there's a huge amount of memorabilia from very famous climbers, whether that's Reinhold Messner or Swaddington. But as I was struggling with my noodles for my Swiss lunch, I came across Edward Whymper's book, Scrambles in the Alps. And flicking through it, I was struck by this. He says, the thing to be wished for is not that mountains become easier, but that the climbers become much wiser and much stronger. And I thought that just sums up the Scottish Conservative Party just now. Because, you know, the mountains are not going to get any easier, far from it. But also I think we have to get wiser and stronger, particularly when it comes to the policy focus, a very important policy focus, where I think we have to be tackling some of the really difficult problems in Scotland, particularly when it comes to the economy. But also that we can ensure that people understand what the identity is of our conservative principles. And I don't actually think we've been very good at that recently. And thirdly, we absolutely have to start engaging with the groups within the voter set where we have lost an awful lot of support. Now, I thought about this a lot. And I said it at the beginning of the campaign, and I'm even more convinced now. There's only one person who I think can deliver the real change that we need, and that is Murdo. And I say that because Murdo has been... I've known Murdo a very long time. Very long time. And it's not just because of the friendship, which I greatly appreciate, but I've watched him in Parliament over a long period of time. He has that experience that not terribly many people in the Parliament just now do have. He has the ability to take on the SNP, whether that's in the Chamber or in committee, and he's done that very successfully. But also, I think he's well respected across the political spectrum. He has that integrity that I think make people sit up and think what he's doing. So in a minute, we will obviously hear from Murdo. But I want to say a little bit about two of my other colleagues, for whom I have the highest regard, and that's Jamie Green and Liam Kerr. Because, for me, they speak the truth, and it's an uncomfortable truth at times, which we need to hear. And that's true of Graham Simpson as well, because the truth is something that we need to take on board. We've not been doing nearly enough to ensure that we are really grasping the thistle of the problems that we face. So thank you to Jamie and to Liam, who I think are some of our top team when it comes to debates. And I tend to judge politicians about how they fare in difficult circumstances. And my goodness, we've got difficult circumstances just now. So it's this team that we have this morning that we're going to hear from. And I first ask Jamie Green to come and say a few words.
Murdo said, don't put this on the lectern.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, contrary to some media reports, I should say that I am here completely of my own volition. Please rest assured. But I'm also really proud to share this stage and this room with some very valued colleagues here at the front. People who've become my friends and confidants over the last almost a decade of Scottish politics. We have shared and even swapped some front bench roles over the years. We've debated with each other and even against each other on occasion. Of course, Murdo, however, doesn't play in the parliamentary rock band that Liam and I and Brian Whittle do. So perhaps he's actually the odd one out in this meeting this morning. But I'm going to say, Murdo, directly, if you have any musical talent whatsoever,
No.
I was going to say our band is very liberal. And it's very open to new members, and you'd be more than welcome. Perhaps the Gang of Four should be the Fab Four instead, but you can decide who Ringo Starr is. I'm sure there are plenty of people in this room, and perhaps even beyond it, who are more surprised to see Liam and myself here, but we have good reason, and I'm going to explain why. I think I've learned over the last few weeks the hard way that when you stick your head above the parapet, particularly with some home truths, you open yourself up to attack and criticism, perhaps sometimes even from those you least expect to, and at no least deserve to. Political leadership takes its toll on everybody, particularly your family and your friends, your colleagues and your team. I am very grateful to my own team, who have achieved so much with so little. They know who they are, and I say thank you to them. I'll be honest with you guys. I think some people will argue that Murdo and I probably sit on monumentally different ends of the Conservative spectrum on occasion. But I will say two things in response to that. One, on some issues, absolutely, undoubtedly that has been the case, and it will remain to be the case. Because that is how successful Conservative parties win elections. That's how Conservative parties get into government, by respecting each other's differences and by appealing to the widest possible voter base. In fact, I would say our ability to disagree but still find common sense of purpose is absolutely essential to our future success. Two, I would say that looks can be deceiving, because Murdo and I have far more in common than people might think. Definitely not the same hairstylist, I would say. But the main one is mutual respect, and for me that is so important in politics. Respect in politics is the founding stone of any great edifice of a political party. Because I would say, sadly, that we as a party, if we were once deemed a broad church, I would probably now describe us more as a slightly wide side chapel. Because the election-winning machine that I stood as part of in 2016 instead now feels today a bit like a battle of mindsets, a battle of tradition and continuity versus change and modernisation. And I know which side of that argument I wish to be on. And that's why I threw my own hat in the ring for this leadership election. My campaign slogan was simple: for the next generation of members and of voters. Why? Because our movement needs to reform. It needs to reform how we treat our members and activists, like many of you here in this room today. But we also need to change what we say to voters, how we say it, and more importantly, to whom we are speaking. Because I fundamentally believe that the centre-right of politics in Scotland demands and deserves a decent, pragmatic and united offering. Our party can be that. But it does mean we must reach out and do new things and try new things. We cannot bury our heads in the sand anymore and pretend that all will be well. I firmly believe, from the people I've spoken to these last few weeks, there's a real appetite out there to rebuild our party. But that's going to need a marked shift in the style of leadership at the top, and also meaningful change at the grassroots level as well. I am hugely grateful for all the lovely and positive messages that I've had in response to my own campaign. But I will say whoever wins this contest needs to use every bit of talent in the group to succeed. Because all the pitches and proposals and ideas we've heard over the last few weeks from all the candidates have merit in their own way. But today I've come to the conclusion that there's only one candidate in this leadership contest who has both the experience and the broad party appeal, and simply an unapologetic plan to make the sort of real changes, and I say that forcibly, real changes, that we must now see happen. So I will take my own personal bid no further, and I will support Murdo Fraser. Because I have no doubt whatsoever that he has the absolute gumption to do what it takes to turn things around and bring some much needed respect and inclusivity back to our party. That is what I want to see, and I hope that is what you want to see as well. But before we hear from the main man, I'd like to pass over to my friend and colleague Liam Kerr, and he's told me he's going to sing us a wee song.
Thanks, Jamie, and good morning all. Actually, it seems like we're singing from the same hymn sheet today. Despite what you may have heard, I can assure you that the only thing that I have been calculating for the last 2 weeks is nominations. Some commentators have cast doubt on the sincerity of my bid. Well, I've currently got around 120 nominations that beg to differ. On which note can I publicly acknowledge the absolute Trojans in my team, particularly Nathan Noble, Mark Findlater and Maurice Golden MSP, who have absolutely knocked their pan in for me this last few weeks. Those who may be unsure what real commitment looks like would do well to log off their X accounts and take some lessons from them. And I also tell you, I never expected to outrun my great friend and bandmate Brian Whittle, but here I am today. But I do think it's important to pay tribute to him and the experience of leadership that he has brought and that I certainly have learned from over this campaign. Now, my campaign has been founded on three key concepts, which, if displayed by the new leader, will allow our party to move forward positively and successfully. That's vision, that's integrity, and perhaps above all, that's unity. Those are the principles that we need. The principle to set out a clear vision for Scotland's future, backed by policies across portfolios that will deliver it, and the strategies that ultimately will deliver a path to power to deliver on that vision. It is the principle that our politics today, our party of today, needs more than ever a leader with integrity. Someone who, regardless of the slings and arrows, will stay true to their conservative principles and will ensure that our party's internal challenges are addressed. But crucially, the principle of unity. We simply will not succeed going forward unless we can come together after this contest and unite under a strong, experienced, respected leader whom the people of Scotland can look at and know that regardless of their preferred party, that is their next First Minister who will deliver the vision that I set out earlier. Now, over the course of the last 2 weeks, I have had the pleasure to campaign, to share ideas, to share my vision and my principles with most of the other candidates seeking nomination. And what has become very clear to me during the general election, during the summer and during this campaign so far is that it will be unity that is the most crucial, yet perhaps the most difficult aspect to deliver. Achieving it, when this contest is done, requires someone with years of experience, someone who knows our party inside out, someone who can genuinely bring us back together and indeed has a track record of doing so, having been through this process many times already. Now, after 8 years as an MSP under 3 leaders, I've reflected very carefully. And of the 4 candidates remaining in this leadership election, my belief is that only one has the experience and indeed the ability to deliver that unity. And friends, it isn't me. In the 8 years I've worked with him and the 23 years he's been in Parliament, I've seen that Murdo Fraser shares my demand for vision, for integrity, and above all, unity. Ladies and gentlemen, the good of our party, the good of the people of Scotland, and indeed the good of our shared future must never be sacrificed on an altar of personal ambition. And that is why this morning I have notified the returning officer that I have withdrawn as a candidate for the leadership, and instead I shall devote myself going forward to endorsing, supporting and backing the one remaining candidate who can deliver the vision, integrity and unity upon which I built my platform. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please give a very warm welcome to Murdo Fraser.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for that very warm welcome. What a positive and happy gathering we have here this morning. I don't think there's been such a positive meeting since Angus Robertson met the Israeli Deputy Ambassador just the other week there. I'm sure this meeting will be equally positive going forward. And as you probably know, the football season started, for those who are interested in such things. We're in the transfer window. I'm delighted that this morning Team Fraser has made 3 impressive new signings. More about whom in a moment, but of course there's still room. There's still room for more. Unfortunately, I have to tell you, we won't be making a bid for the currently transfer-listed John Mason on the SNP bench. However, the prospect of a swap deal between John Mason and Stephen Kerr is not unattractive. But can I thank my colleagues and friends, Liz Smith, Jamie Green and Liam Kerr, for their very kind words about me this morning. And I'm especially grateful to both Jamie and Liam for setting aside their leadership ambitions to come in and back my campaign. Because there are issues about which we will sometimes disagree, but there is far more that we agree on and far more that unites us. So thank you guys for coming on board. It's really appreciated. I've also had a message from our friend and colleague Brian Whittle, who, as we know, folded his leadership campaign earlier in the week and has come in to back me. We've got apologies today from my friend Maurice Golden, previously backing Liam's campaign, now behind me. And finally, I'd welcome my MSP colleague Graham Simpson, MSP, who's with us, and also the many other local councillors and activists who've been able to join us this morning. And that makes a total of 9 MSPs backing me in this campaign. These last few weeks have been immensely difficult for our party. Last month we saw a general election where our vote share slumped to the lowest it has ever been in our party's history. We have seen a fractious leadership contest so far, with persistent anonymous briefings against candidates, including me and my colleagues here. We have also seen concerning claims being raised about the conduct of our party's Scottish leader in relation to interference in 2 candidate selections. Our activists are angry, our members are angry, our MSPs are angry, and I am angry, and people feel let down. And when we should be turning our fire on our political opponents in the SNP and in Labour, we have been turning it on each other. The last few weeks have proven that real change is an absolute necessity. It is a matter of survival for our party. For too long in this party, we have had too much power concentrated in too few hands. And now we see the effects of that. That has to change now. It is deeply dispiriting for our activists to be asked to go out and knock on doors, make phone calls and deliver leaflets, only to have the ground cut from under them because of the behaviour of a few at the top of the party who should know better. That has to change, and under my leadership it will. That's why I've set out a 12-point plan for party reform. I want to give this party back to its members, to give them a real say in the direction of the party and a real say in the formation of policy. And my own leadership campaign is a manifestation of that. It is not just me, because I now have a team of the most experienced, sharpest MSPs ready to take forward Conservative policies in education, health, transport, housing, energy, and most importantly, the economy to the country. Now, I dare say some of our friends in the press thought my time as a leadership candidate had gone, that my ship had sailed. And if I'm honest, I agreed with them. I was happy to be a supporting act over the next 18 months. The major reason that changed was the clear need for a unity candidate to unite our MSPs and give our party back to its members. I agreed to stand for the leadership of this party simply because my colleagues asked me to. They asked for unity, and I will give it to them. Divided parties don't win elections. We need to be united to win. And as my friend and colleague Edward Mountain, MSP, said when he joined my campaign just a few days ago, the party needs to unite, and the only candidate he believes can deliver that unity is me. I have been in this party longer than all the other candidates put together. My adult life has been spent in it. I have walked the streets, knocked the doors, had my fingers trapped in letter boxes, been chased by dogs, lost, won, cried, laughed. This is my party, and I'm going to make it work. I've set aside some of the views I previously held about the structure of this party because I know that they won't unify colleagues. And I'm delighted that today I am joined by colleagues who see that need for unity and are prepared to come in behind my campaign. I want to build a team that will take this party forward, a team of all the talents. Over the last few weeks, we have seen some excellent contributions from my colleagues here, from Liz on the economy, on finance, from Jamie on how to attract younger voters, from Liam on education. We've also heard them from Brian Whittle on leadership and the need to encourage greater activity if we are to address the long-standing health problems in our population. In addition, we have Graham Simpson here, who knows more about transport than those people have forgotten. And Maurice Golden, who is respected across the political spectrum as someone who really understands the issues around net zero and climate change. As leader, these are the people I want in my team, with a broad depth of knowledge. It's a good start, but there is space in this team for more, for everyone with the talent we need to be a serious force once again. We as a party can spend another 5 weeks shouting at each other. We can spend the next 5 weeks under a cloud of suspicion and impropriety. Or we can end it. We can end it now, and as a team of MSPs, working on behalf of our members, take back control of the party. And so today I say to both Megan Gallagher and Russell Finlay, let's bring this sorry chapter to a close. Come and join this team. Show our members and our country that we understand their frustration, that we have responded to their deep concerns. There is far more that unites us than divides us. I've been really taken by Megan's pitch, particularly to women and younger voters, and admired her for the strong stance she took and the leadership she showed in relation to the Gender Reform Act. And I admire Russell for his campaigning on law and order issues and for the way he has set out new policy ideas in the course of his campaign. We need all these talents, including his, to come together to take our party forward. So come and join me and my team so we can start fighting our real opponents in the SNP and in Labour. The Scottish political debate is changing. Scotland is moving on from the constitutional obsession that has dogged us for the last decade, and so must we as a party. We've had great success over the past decade, being the strongest pro-union party opposing independence. Now, as people believe, even those who are pro-independence, that prospect has become ever more unlikely, the salient of that argument has become less powerful. We saw that in the general election last month, and we will see it in the run-up to the vital Holyrood election in 2026. We won the constitutional battle. Now we must win the policy battle. Victims of our own success in beating independence, we've actually lost what was our strongest political argument. We have no choice now but to talk about issues other than the Constitution, with a clear offer to the people of Scotland in terms of the economy and tax, on jobs, on transport, on the NHS, on education, on justice and on the environment. This party is bursting with ideas in all these areas, as we have seen over the past few weeks, and we can bring them all together in a compelling offer to the Scottish people. And that is where the opportunity lies. I know there are many more people who hold Conservative values in Scotland than currently vote Conservative. Some of these people will have voted SNP, perhaps for the last 2 decades, perhaps because they are sympathetic to independence. Now, with independence no longer a prospect, these individuals have been freed up to vote for a party which might not share their view on the Constitution, but is actually offering real solutions to the problems Scotland faces today. By the time we get to the next Holyrood election in 2026, the SNP will have been in power for 19 years. That is nearly 2 decades of failure. 2 decades where our economy has underperformed that of the rest of the UK, meaning we have lower tax revenues to fund vital public services. 2 decades when we have seen our public services crumble. 2 decades when we've seen a lack of progress on vital transport projects, such as ferry procurement and the dualling of roads such as the A9, the A96, the A1, the A75 and the A77. 2 decades when our education system, once the envy of the world, has slipped down the international rankings. The case for change in 2026 is undeniable. But we can't just swap one left-of-centre party in the SNP with another in Labour just because it has a different view on the Constitution. Scotland needs real change, and that is what the Scottish Conservatives will provide under my leadership and with the great team that's around me. But first, we have to unite. The clock is ticking. Those Holyrood elections are just 20 months away, and there is no time to waste. So let me just say this in closing. As a party, we can't just go on as we are. To borrow a phrase from another leadership campaign last year, continuity won't cut it. Our members are crying out for real change, and I will deliver it. So let's put the difficulties of the last few weeks behind us. Let's come together as a single team and take our party forward. Let's get on with this now, and let's unite to win. Thank you. Okay. Right.
Yes, I am.
You share
I'm going
this.
to get a few photos first.
Right, okay. We're going to do a few photos and we'll take some Q&A.
Come to that side.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll do this.
Round here. We'll be elected. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Liz.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, we've got a lot of time for questions. Questions to Murdo, but questions to my other colleagues too. So we've got quite a bit of time for that. So please, can I have the first question, somebody? Yes, Kieran Andrews.
Murdo, you said at the end of your speech there in the trail overnight that you want to attract disillusioned SNP voters. This is a target Conservative seat. It has been for as long as I can remember. You've stood in every Holyrood election and lost. So given you've not been able to win over SNP voters personally here, how do you propose to do it as leader of the party?
So the first time I stood in the Perthshire North constituency against John Swinney, I got 6,880 votes. At the last election in 2021, I got just under 15,000 votes. So you're right, I haven't won, but I've more than doubled the Conservative vote in that space of time. So this is not just about me, it's about having a team and having a platform. And as I said earlier in my speech, what's happened is I think we are moving on from the Constitution. People are looking for change in Scotland. In 2026 will be a change election, much like the general election was last month. People will be looking for a different approach from the Scottish Government. If you look at what Labour are offering compared to the SNP, if you take out the Constitution, there's very little difference between the Labour offer and the SNP offer, whether it's on the economy or on tax or on education or on justice or on housing. You can hardly get a cigarette paper between Labour and the SNP. And that is where we can offer a real and different alternative. And I know there are people in this area who are what you might call tartan Tories, people who are basically hold Conservative values but haven't voted for us, perhaps because they're sympathetic to independence. And my pitch is, if that independence is something they think is no longer going to happen, that gives us an opportunity to appeal to them as a party that can play a real role in the next Holyrood election and actually get things done.
So just on that basis then, what you were saying about the SNP and Labour, does that mean that it's not a given if it comes to the next Conservative leader being decisive in who the next First Minister is at home Parliament? It's not a given then that you would back Labour to get the SNP out?
I don't think we're going to make any predictions at this point about the outcome of the next Holyrood election. Let's see how the land lies at that point. My point, if I'm Conservative leader, is to fight for every vote to maximise our influence in that Scottish Parliament.
Yes.
If you were to win,
Yeah.
how would you work with the SNP or Labour if they were to win 2026? And who would you appoint as your deputy if you win?
Well, to answer the second point first, I've not made anybody any offers for positions if I were to win, so I'm not going to appoint anybody in particular as my deputy or to any other role. In relation to your first point, Rachel, I think we have to be prepared to work with other parties to get things done. People don't just vote Conservative as a protest vote. They vote for us because they expect us to try and deliver Conservative policies. Now, that's been incredibly hard in the Scottish Parliament over recent years, not least over the last 3 years, where because of the Conservative Green majority, it's virtually impossible for us to get anything done. But we now have an SNP minority government. I think we should be prepared, as my colleagues have done, to work on a cross-party basis to get policies through. Now, I've just had some success with that, because I had a members' bill on tackling the scourge of fly tipping. And I managed to get every single clause of that bill put into the circular economy bill being taken forward by not just an SNP minister, but a Green minister in Lorna Slater. So, Lorna Slater and I are not exactly political bedfellows, but what I've been able to demonstrate already is I can work across the political spectrum to get things done and get necessary reforms that will help people deliver. So I'm here to be consensual and to cooperate across the political spectrum, because that's what people who vote Scottish Conservative expect us to do for them in a parliament of minorities.
Simon.
This is the second leadership contest launch we've been to this week. A couple of questions, because there are a couple of themes that are common to both. Russell Finney was also promising change, but you're saying real change. So is it the view of all three of you there that actually he's really the continuity candidate and you are the real change candidate? And also on unity, Russell did say that one of his first jobs would be to try and bring things back together again after the travails of the last few weeks. Do you think he could do that?
Well, on the unity point, I'm already demonstrating how I can build a team. So we had 6 leadership contenders, and I have 3 of them backing me. That's leadership in action. That's building a team. That's unity. That's bringing people together. So I have demonstrated I can do that. I'm not going to say anything negative about any other contenders in this race. I'm absolutely clear about that. Nor will I have my outriders in the media making negative comments, directly or indirectly. I'll just leave it at that. But I don't know if my colleagues want to add anything to that particular point.
Yeah, I mean, every candidate puts himself forward for leadership will know what they're getting themselves into, or perhaps we didn't know what we're getting ourselves into. But I admire and respect all of them. I've worked alongside every single one of those 6 candidates in some shape or form on committees. One of them was my deputy for 2 years, and I've worked under people. That's how politics works, that ability to work together, to disagree on matters but come to a respectful conclusion. It's how we move on as a team. I think it's been clear that that's not always been easy. The last few months have proven that. And after elections, people often feel upset and angry, particularly the members and the activists. So I think the job of the new leader is to pull people together, both in Holyrood, but also the MP group, our councillors, who often feel much left out of the decision-making process, and our members and activists, because ultimately you need boots on the ground to go out and knock on doors and win elections. So it's really who can do all of that, who can do it at all those levels, Simon, and that's why I think Murdo is the best person for the job.
For me,
Sorry.
just to add to that, because I think James is absolutely right. Having been through this 3 times now, it is difficult, I think, or it seems that it would be very difficult going forward. And as I said in my remarks, I've reflected very carefully and thought, who is going to be the best placed leader to do that going forward? And to my mind, looking at his experience, looking at his backgrounds, for me, that was always going to be Murdo Fraser.
And can I just say, none of us were promised jobs or positions, or and that's important. That is so important, because I want the leader to make use of every single talent, every 31, including our current leader. Everyone has something to say in our team, and it's really important that all those talents are used, because we all appeal to different types of voters. We all have our own views of the world. And as I said, good, successful Conservative parties are the ones that are all-encompassing, and that has to happen no matter what happens next.
Paul.
I've got a question to real-world issues.
Okay.
Since you were elected to Holyrood, you voted against the Parliament and the power on civil partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
You voted against same-sex adoption. You voted against gay marriage. How can you justify having such an anti-gay voting record? And on abortion, you're pro-life or pro-choice?
So on abortion, I've always believed in the legal right to abortion, so let me just put that on the record. I'm a Christian. I take a particular view on what marriage should be. That's how I voted, and I haven't changed my mind on that. But the Conservative Party should be a broad church, and I'm delighted to have Jamie here. Jamie and I have a different view on these matters. Jamie's the convener of the LGBT group in the Scottish Parliament, and we can disagree about these issues, but be part of the same team. I don't know, Jamie, if you want to add something to that.
You're very welcome to come to my wedding.
I'll be delighted.
You can do the after-dinner speech, perhaps. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Yes, Ronnie.
Thank you, Liz. Just as a local councillor, how do you, Murdo, and the team see a sort of good cooperation on working between Scottish MSPs and indeed MPs and local elected representatives? I think if we could actually work as from sort of down up to the top team, I think it would help the people that we represent.
Yeah, Ronnie, you're absolutely right. And I did a call on Monday night with a large group of Scottish Conservative councillors from across Scotland. I know you were busy that night, so you couldn't join us. But the theme that came through from that call loud and clear was that our local councillors feel disconnected from the MSP group. Now, I've got a range of ideas to deal with that. I'd like to see a dedicated member of staff who'd act as a liaison between the MSPs and the councillors, and I'd like to see it in our shadow cabinet, a local government representative. So when we're making decisions on policy in Holyrood that might impact on local councils, we've actually got a voice from Conservative councillors as an input to that policy. So it's not like we're telling you afterwards that we've taken decisions, which has been happening, frankly, up until now. And that's part of the problem in the party so far. It's been too centralised. We've not seen enough engagement for the members, and we've not seen enough engagement for local councillors. And if I'm leader, that's going to change.
Thank you.
Sorry, I can't see who that is.
David,
David, sorry,
yeah.
David.
Thank you. Murdo, just a quick point of clarification. You said in your speech, speaking directly to Megan Gallagher and Russell Finlay, let's bring this sorry chapter to a close, come and join this team.
Yep.
Are you calling on them to drop out and for you essentially to be coronated as party leader?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's really touching that point of team building. Given the behaviour you touched on in your speech, when this contest is over, would you be open to having Douglas Ross in your team, and would you be open to him being in your shadow cabinet?
I'm not going to make any offers of jobs at this point, but can I say Douglas is a great talent in our party. He's a very effective debater. When previously he was a justice spokesman, he made great running on that issue. If Douglas would want to be part of my team, I'd be delighted to have him.
Including in the shadow cabinet?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, Murdo.
Yeah.
Hi, Liz. You seem to have softened your stance on a split in the party,
Yep.
but do you agree with the remarks that I believe Liz Smith had made last month about a split being in the mix of discussions about the future of the party?
So I don't have the same view on this I had back in 2011 when I put it forward, and indeed, amongst colleagues here, there'll be a range of different views on that. I'm not proposing a split, and in any event, this is not up to the leader to decide. This is the problem with the party up until now. It's not for the leader to decide what the future structure of the party will be. Our rules are very clear. Any changes to the party structure or constitution must be approved by the members on a vote with a 2/3 majority. So even if I did think that, I can't do it. It's up to the members, and I know the members are not there at the moment. They don't want to go down that route. So I proposed having a commission to look at the constitution of the party. That was last done 15 years ago. There are other weaknesses, in my view, in the party constitution around, for example, the role of the leader in Scotland, how that interacts with the MPs, because nominally the Scottish leader is also leader of the MPs, but I don't think the MPs necessarily see it that way, because their loyalty is to the UK leader or the Prime Minister. We need to strengthen the voice of the grassroots in the structures of the party, and I think we could address that. So I'm going to set up an independently chaired commission that goes away and looks at all these issues. But if it's independent, I'm not going to tell it what to do. And ultimately, any changes it recommends will be a matter for the members to decide, as I say, on a two-thirds majority.
And we do it after 26.
After 2026, yeah.
Tom.
Sorry.
May just see you as a big Rangers fan. You're very vocal. Why do you think you're simply the best? And if you're the Philip Clement of the race, do you think that makes Russell Finlay the second best?
Oh, that's a rather tortuous analogy. Lewis, if I can say so. But this is an ecumenical team because my good friend Graham Simpson at the end is a season ticket holder at Parkhead. So. There's another one here. So I will not be trading on the Rangers brand.
Not even like football.
I'll not be trading on the Rangers brand. I just wish there's slightly more success at the moment. And I hope if I become leader to be more successful than even Philippe Clement has been so far.
I'll just thank Murdo for outing me.
Tom Gordon.
Hi Murdo. How long have you been working with the other candidates on teeing up these endorsements? Or was it just a happy coincidence in the dying moments of the race?
Well, these are all friends, and we've all been having conversations, but it was only in the last 24 hours that they all came together. My colleagues are happy to they want to comment.
Yeah, I only got to the 100 nominations when we were notified last night. So I've obviously spent, 12 hours, 18 hours reflecting very carefully on the future of the party, the future of the campaign. No, I think I know what you're implying, Tom, and no.
The suggestion is that some of this stuff is rather artificial, and you and Jamie and perhaps Brian were paper candidates in this.
I think to suggest that I was a paper candidate, when you look at, as I said in my remarks, what I and my team, the shift that has been put in, I mean, genuinely, I named Nathan, Mark and Morris, and it's just been phenomenal. The suggestion is not correct.
There's nothing artificial about anything I've said in the last couple of weeks, and I hope that's come across, actually. I don't know if anyone in the room watched my launch video, but every word of that I wrote, and every word of that came from the heart, and that's how I do my politics. People choose not to believe that, that's entirely up to them, but for me, politics is about passion, and it's about getting things done, and I want to get things done. I don't want to sit in eternal opposition, and I think that's why we need a leader that can help us win over a new generation of voters. And I want to play my part in that. So I absolutely went into this competition full of ideas, positivity, and I wanted to say to people out there that the Conservative Party is changing and that we will be part of that change. And it was only, as Liam said, in the last 24 hours that I've decided to park aside my own ambitions. Politicians are ambitious people. We all have egos in our own right. But sometimes you have to do something for the greater good. And I genuinely think, having spoken to a lot of members over the last few weeks, that they want to see changes in our party, they want to see changes to our message to voters, and that's got to happen for our survival, and that's why I'm backing Murdo.
And Murdo, in your heart of hearts, would you rather be leader of the Scottish Conservatives or leader of the New Caledonians? Some other distinct Scottish party?
I am standing to be leader of the Scottish Conservatives, and it would be an absolute dream for me to be able to take this party forward. Well, I think I've answered that, but if you want me to be crystal clear, I want to be leader of the Scottish Conservatives. That is my ambition.
For now.
For as long as possible, and for as long as the members will have me in charge.
But this commission, and you may have a say in its remit, will it examine the issue of a separate Scottish party?
What every candidate in this race has said is that they want that commission to examine the relationship between the UK and the Scottish Party amongst all other issues. Every candidate said that. Russell Finlay said that in an interview he did, in an article he wrote for the Times last month. But these decisions are not decisions for the leader. Yeah. These are decisions for the members on a two-thirds majority. And people raising these issues don't understand the way the party works. They don't understand the party constitution, they don't understand the party rules, and they don't understand the membership.
Well, you said the members weren't ready for this quote at the moment, so it sounds like you would like to warm them up today.
It's not a matter for the leader to determine.
Yes.
Hi, I was just wondering, you mentioned the SNP leadership campaign last year a few times. How important is it to you that you avoid the kind of like tumultuous arguing between candidates? And also Douglas Ross earlier this week, I think, made the Scottish Conservative leadership sound like not the best job to have in terms of like people briefing against them and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm confident that you can avoid that if you were leading.
So what I'm promising is a new style of leadership. I want to bring forward a team of people that I will lead, but it's important to have that collegiate leadership. And I think if you can bring people into the tent, if you can involve them in decision making, that's how you make a team happy and you get a team to play together, right? And that might be a bit of a change of leadership from what we've had in the past. Sorry, remind me what your first question was. Oh yeah, about the SNP. Yeah, so I've been very clear. I'm not going to make any criticisms of any other candidate in this race, nor am I going to criticise their policy platform. That's going to make for a very challenging STV debate that I do with Colin Mackay in a few weeks' time, but I'm not going to say anything negative about another candidate. What I have done, and I'm not going to apologise for this, is criticise people who I think have let our party down in the past. And I think our members and our activists and our candidates have been let down by those at the top of the party. They were let down by Boris Johnson over Partygate. They were let down by Liz Truss with a mini budget. And yes, they were let down by Rishi Sunak at D-Day. And I think that has to change.
Murdo, are you one of the calculating bastards?
I hope I'm not.
I think Liz clearly is one of them. I'm sure Douglas, being a referee, has held much spicier language than that from the terracing over the years. I did think it was interesting he said he'd had it out with the people he thought were briefing against him. He's never spoken to me about it, so clearly I'm in the clear. I don't know about the others here, but...
Liam and Jamie, was it really over the last 24 hours and that changed your mind? Was it splitting the sort of change vote, as it were, that sort of made you think, right, I don't want to sort of split the change vote and so we should put in the Murdo or something else?
No, it's more simple than that. It's looking at what people are saying, what they're offering to the members and to the party. Murdo and I are not going to always agree on everything. That's the whole point of political parties. But you do have to take into account where there are areas where you absolutely agree. And from the conversations I've been having, the feedback I've been having, they marry very much with what I'm hearing from Murdo, and you heard a lot of that in his speech. That need for reform, change in leadership style, and a more inclusive place of policy making and interaction with members and councillors particularly. And that's the feedback I've been getting. Now, I think based on his decades, I should say, of experience in the party, sorry to make you feel old, Murdo, but that really counts for something. And those relationships count as well, that experience counts. Now, I consider Liam, myself and others here to have good experience in the Holyrood. But out there, amongst grassroots, that years and years of respect that's been built up by going and fighting elections year after year on the doorsteps, that counts for something. And I think it's Murdo's time.
So for me, yes, I received the requisite number of votes yesterday evening, late yesterday evening. And then, as I said in my remarks, it's clear to me, and I know this will be the same for Jamie and Brian, personal ambition must never triumph over the party, over its members, and over the future for the people of Scotland. That future is best served by a strong leader of the Scottish Conservative Party. And I spent a lot of time reflecting what would be my next move, and I concluded that my personal ambition must never triumph over those things. And the best thing that could happen is for me to swing in behind Murdo Fraser.
And it's so important we get this right. This is a very decisive moment, I think, given the recent election. And every party has this moment. It's a crossroads. And for me, it really feels like a genuine one. And I had to weigh up what I felt in my own heart of hearts. And I want us to take the right path in terms of the change that I think is needed to turn around our success. It's got to happen.
One more, Tom. I should say, Tom, I enjoy my daily evisceration in the Daily Mail. So And I know you're just doing your job, so carry on.
Just to follow up David's question about coronation. I mean, you've complained about too much power at the top of the party. However you dress it up, an appeal for unity, whatever, isn't asking for a coronation more of that? Isn't it hypocritical, isn't it?
No, it's not, because I don't think what we've seen over the last few weeks has painted our party in a particularly great light. And I think we should be turning our fire on our real opponents in the SNP and Labour and not on each other. I've already demonstrated I can build a team. As I said earlier, there's more space in this team. I'd be delighted if Russell and Megan came and joined this team. We can stop fighting each other and start fighting our real opponents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I think we should. Yeah.
One final question? Yes.
Yeah, Bob.
Thanks for your presentation, all of you. I think it was Jamie mentioned this word respect, and I think the public seems to have lost respect, not just for us as a party, politics all the way through.
Yeah.
And every time somebody messes up, whether it's down in London, it comes back to here, it comes back to us lowly councillors. And I think, how can we get the message across that we're here to serve the public? It's public service. We haven't got our noses in the trough. We're here to serve the people. How do we rebuild that respect, not just for us as a party, but really out to all the political spectrum?
Well,
The two things: you work hard and be decent.
Yeah.
You know, that's how you show respect. You show respect for each other. You show respect for your opponents when it's required. You know, robust debate is good. It's healthy. We've got to do it. We all have the ability to go in there and turn that dial up when it's needed. But the way to get things done is often to be constructive and to sit around and have dialogue. And some of the really, you know, we saw the drug deaths this week, and that's a perfect example where I will really want to see cross-party support, sit around the table and start to tackle some of these deep-rooted societal problems that we have in Scotland. So I think the way we carry ourselves has to change in the chamber in Holyrood. We have to up our game in the quality and tone of our debate. And I think that comes from both leadership, but also the people that leaders surround themselves with as well. And I think we have to be a team. We have to show respect to each other and equally to those that we disagree with. And then perhaps the public might start to believe that that's possible. And it is possible.
It's such a good point, which is why, out of my three, you might remember the second plank of my prospectus was integrity. And I think you're absolutely spot on. What we have to do, and Jamie's right here, the leader, but also the style of leadership and also how we, the rest of the party, conduct ourselves, has to always be with that level of integrity that the public expects and the public deserves. And part of my reflection that I was talking to Simon about earlier on was about will that integrity be taken forward? Now I can say, I promise you that all of the candidates in this leadership election have that integrity. I'm proud of them, all of them. But I looked at it, and that was part of my thinking about Murdo, because there's one man who always, in the 8 years that I've known him as an MSP colleague, conducts himself appropriately. That's him standing right there.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, can I just say thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate this. It is an important time. I think Jamie mentioned that we're at a crossroads. I absolutely believe that. And my reason for coming in behind Murdo is for exactly what I said. I do think it's a combination of his considerable experience, the integrity that he's had, and his ability to take the fight to the SNP and to Labour, which is exactly what we have to do. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Liz. Can I suggest those of you who feel up to it and want to, we all go outside and get some group photographs, take some placards. I don't know if the camera guys want to come out and just get some shots out on the riverside. Nice backdrop. If you want to just do that just now, and then I've got a few journalists I need to speak to.
Thank you. Well done.
Great.
Well done. Very good.